You want it, I want it, we all want past characters to come back, whether because they had unfinished storylines, characters that we love personally, or they fit within the season's theme. But how do I pick 10 out of 200 possible characters? Even characters that I've hated in the past, I like them to get another chance. New writers could improve them, a good season could fix them. I'm going to ignore actor availability, season restrictions, allow them to come back as a civilian role only, and I'm leaving out Jason David Frank since he already did it for Dino Thunder. Adam is a surefire mentor role. He's always felt like a leader. Even back when he first started on MMPR, he usually isn't emotional, well, unless he's a frog. Understands when villains are exploiting the team, always tries to help out everyone, understood all the cryptic stuff Demetria threw at him, helped stop Carlos from quitting during that screw up in space, and led the backup team during Once a Ranger. We know he runs a martial arts dojo at Alpha. It'd be a good way to bring back a few other classic elements, as well as expand on some leftover stories like the Zeo powers.
Chip.
I think Chip would fill the role well. Even with him being the most goofy character on Mystic Force, he was more mature than a lot of the others. He didn't turn himself into a tree like Xander. Chip was personally trained by Daggerot, so a lot of that rubbed off on him near the end of the season. We also know he won't abandon his friends after all the nonsense he had to go through with Vita. A lot of that kooky nature would make him a different type of mentor. I'd see him allow different tactics, teach lessons in fun ways, kind of like what Mick does in Ninja Steel.
Tania.
I want her back because she didn't get to do a whole lot. Tania is pretty much a blank slate where the writers could do a ton of stuff with the character. She has built-in nostalgia. We left her off at running a radio station. We know her parents were Indiana Jones characters and she could sing. But that's really it. Anything is possible with her. I personally like to see a Ranger that would not want to come back. Maybe because of her being thrown forward in time, it had some weird issues she had to deal with later on. So she kind of resented being a Ranger. This love-hate relationship could help out some of the characters on the new team. Ty and her Zeo Crystal. The entire team's power stems from her specifically. Many different ideas.
Cam.
I really wanted Cam to be in Samurai. It might have helped those 2 years. He's a natural at being a mentor. That was his role. He was basically filling in for his father. You can't go wrong with him. He's a teacher, a good friend, intelligent, and has dealt with losing his powers. Plus, being related to one of the villains. It's an interesting plot idea in this hypothetical season. Or maybe Cam could become evil as a cliffhanger. Cam is an open book. He could be your traditional Zordon type, or he can go in the Tommy direction.
Marik.
Marik is a good well to dip back into. At the end of Wild Force, Marik and Zanaku went off to do their own thing, so many ideas could be done to continue that story. Very few Rangers understand what it's like to be taken control of. Marik has had one of the hardest lives out there. As a mentor, he could be very strict towards the team like Kruger. He has a literal haunted past. Maybe some of the villains could exploit that. Marik would also create a different dynamic. He's the guy who likes to be alone, but being thrusted into a mentor role responsible for 6 other people is a tall order. We could get a wrap-up story with Zanaku. Maybe he could be worked into the season. Like say, if Q-Ranger was adapted, he could be one of them. How would Marik feel about that? Someone who was evil, had control of his Zords and his body, now gets a second chance while Marik is stuck with no powers.
Jake.
I really want Jake to get a second chance. I know it's an odd choice to pick him. What kind of experience could he get? Blah, 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 blah. He does have one advantage over other Rangers. He's used all the powers. He's experienced 20 years of different abilities, a huge army fight, and has interacted with past Rangers before. I also want him back so to not totally alienate kids. It's not fair to always want the older characters back and not the newer ones. If the writing is good, we could see Jake has matured since Megaforce, maybe marry Gia. I wouldn't mind an episode or 2 bringing her back, flesh out Megaforce, and put it together with the new Rangers.
Jason.
Jason has to come back. When he came back to Zeo, it was fun. I missed the character. Even though he didn't get much, you can see the character can do more for the series. Even in Wild Force, I like the dynamic of, I was the original Red, I'll help out the new guy. I like to see that again. I'd use the time to clean up some loose ends. Mention the peace conference, integrate it into an episode, maybe even play on the fact that the New Rangers would go insane over knowing Jason was one of the first. That's something that didn't really happen in Dino Thunder. Connor and the others were surprised, but they didn't really care since that wasn't a thing they wanted to do in the first place.
Billy.
Just like Cam, Billy would be a great asset. I hated the way he left. It was such a waste to make Billy do nothing. He could have been a mentor in Zeo, but with Zordon there was no way for that to work. This would give him a second chance. Even allow one of the Alien Rangers to come back too. They could do pretty much anything with the Billy character.
Jennifer.
Jen coming back was pretty much solved in Hyperforce. I like the idea that Jen is training a new team of Rangers. That's what she would do. I'd take a lot of those elements from the RPG game and move it into a real season. It would work great with Q-Ranger footage. Most of them are aliens. Time Force already had different types of people. Aliens would be no different. It works into the SPD element. Q-Ranger has two teams, an A squad and a B squad, if you will. Tackle some personal issues with the new characters that get Jen to reflect on key moments from Time Force. Maybe even bring back some old enemies like Fat Catfish. Have a Tate family member work at her side. Even pop in one or two guests, Nadira, Wes, anyone.
Justin.
Yeah, that's right. I want Justin to come back and get a proper season. I always felt sorry for the character. It was just an unlucky happenstance that Foster had to go through a lot of stuff back then. Space showed he works good in a season as long as they use him right. Bringing him back now as an adult would make him the most unique Ranger out of everyone. He grew up being a hero. We have to assume after he got his powers back in space, he kept them. A lot of people consider the duplicate Turbo team was real Justin with the Robo Rangers. That works fine. I just want him to get another chance. Again, Q-Ranger is perfect for this. They have a young kid as a Ranger in that season. It would be full circle. I could keep going on this list forever, but I have to cut it off somewhere. However, notable mentions of other picks I would want: Taizan, Chad, Kim, Madison, LG Mike and Samurai Mike, Dustin, Tori, Aisha, Kelsey, Dylan, Ziggy, Andros, Cassie, TJ, and finally Bridge. Who would you like to come back? What were your favorites? And if you have a suggestion you'd like me to cover in a future topic, leave a comment down below. Next week, I'll talk about my favorite Sentai end theme songs.